All right, hello and welcome back to the Leader Circle, where today I get to talk to my good friend Katie. And I love to always tell you guys the story of how I meet the people that are in our community and the women that we serve. But I met Katie when I was like obscenely pregnant with my youngest, who is 3.5. At the time of this recording, I was literally talking at a co-working space. And if I'm not mistaken, I was like sitting on a stool because I was so pregnant that like standing and talking was not an option.
Giving birth that day could have been a definite possibility for sure.
Maybe it was cold, but anyway, so that's where I met Katie, and we wound up talking. And at the time I was still sales coaching, and we had a cup of coffee, and she says to me, she's like, I have the exact opposite problem of everybody else you work with. We have no problem selling things. We just like systems and operations and all this other stuff. And so we got a chance to work together. We've been friends ever since. And it's just been really fun to watch Katie's business explode in the most exciting and powerful ways. And then also for us to become good friends. So Katie, thank you for being here, friend.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everybody just a little bit of your story, a little bit about you and how you wound up doing what you do?
Yeah. So everybody has a past, right? So certainly I do. I was a young mother at a young age. I got married very early on in life when I was 20. Had my first baby at 21. I decided that my life had different plans for me. I didn't need to go to college. I was going to marry my high school sweetheart whose family owned this affluent business, and I was just going to be a mom and raise my kids. And life really has a funny way of working out or not working out. But by 27, I was divorced, a single mom, had to go get a just normal 8 to 5 job. I was making $19,000 a year. I still remember that was in 2009. So I was a single mom for some time and raised my daughter and was working in the title insurance industry, which is portion of a real estate transaction. You go to a title company to like sign your documents and things like that. So I did that for the next 14 years, give or take. Well, I was in title for about 14 years total time. And I've kind of just worked my way up, started from filing and typing to running title offices as a manager here for a local title company. So I sort of just kind of worked my way up. I've always had connections in real estate. My grandmother and mother were both real estate agents. So it was sort of something that was always kind of in my blood in a way. And so in 2017, I met the owners of my current company. We became fast friends. And at that point, they had kind of talked to me about lending and title. It all kind of goes together. Have you ever considered, going into the mortgage industry? And it was a hard no for me. And Ryan, we've talked about this in the past. The general reputation of mortgage lenders is pretty terrible, right? They are bad communicators. They don't answer their phone. They're kind of typically known as being a little bit slimy, car salesy. It just didn't have a good feeling. The lenders that I had worked with for years in title, I'm like, that is absolutely not my personality one bit. Nope, it's not going to happen. And then I kind of got to thinking, what if I did something completely different, right? What if I treated this differently? The stereotypes and the stigmas that loan officers had, it doesn't have to work that way, right? So ultimately, I became a little bit closer with the owners of my company. And at the point that I accepted the job, I wouldn't have cared if I was just answering their phones. They were just my people, and I knew that. And so at that point, I left the safety and security of a salary job, jumped right in with 4 months of expenses. I still remember this. And also something I left out, my husband stayed home with our kids. And so I was working full time, had babies at home with my now husband. And we had 4 months of expenses, which was also my husband's boat fund. And so I said, like, we're gonna make this work or we're not, like, it's all in. Most out of character thing I've ever done, but obviously just the most amazing things have happened since. So I quit my job, I went full commission with no safety net, and thankfully didn't have to use that 4 months of expenses. My husband got his boat, and it's working out pretty well at this point. So I just finished my 5th full year in the mortgage industry. Um, I have a team of 7 now. We are top 3 in the city, top female, certainly, closing north of $100 million in business a year. So
I've never heard you tell the story from start to finish like that. Like I've always heard pieces of it, and
yeah.
it's even more incredible than I knew that it was. So let's talk a little bit about, like, you go all in with both feet, right? You know, I don't know the numbers, but I'm guessing most 100% commission sales jobs don't go well for most people, right? Like it's just not. So what do you think that you did, or what approach did you take? What mindset did you have that allowed you to literally go from, you know, zero, because you're not handed a book of business. There's nothing handed to you in this industry. It's very sink or swim to, you know, number 3 team in the state in 5 years.
Yeah. So, here's the thing that I ultimately have to go back to is that I don't have a background in sales. I didn't have any formal sales training, still don't, aside from your coaching, but I am not a salesperson by nature. I just know how to take really good care of people. And I think that from day one has been my advantage, me, truly showing people, hey, I just care about you. I care about your clients. How can I be of service to you? I think most people in sales automatically go in with, what can you give me? And so that feels really gross for me. I am going to come at the approach of, how can I help you? And in turn, it's just going to be organic that we work together because I'm saving you time and money, in your job. So I think just, kind of flipping that. Sales is a very relationship-based business. And so I wish that I had some circus like freak anomaly or something that everybody loves about me, but I really don't. Like, I am no different than anybody else. I just have a lot of conversations, and I come at it from a place of just authenticity and, being sincere. And that has worked out well for me. This industry is male dominated. The banking industry, financial services is primarily male. And so it sort of probably is like just a breath of fresh air for, some of my clients to just feel a little bit more of that polish that us women have, right? We're counselors, we're cheerleaders, we're the ones that are going to get stuff done and all of that. And so it's worked out well for me just to scale in the way of like, hey, I don't know how to sell anything. I just know how to take really good care of people. And
I love that.
then it just kind of spirals from there.
So I remember one of the first things that you told me was, you were like, we don't like to say no to people, right? Like that was just your thing in mortgage. It's never a no for us. It's always a not right now, or go fix this thing or something else. And I'm willing to bet that that's some of it too, because obviously as entrepreneurs, which a large percentage of our audience is, buying a home as an entrepreneur is its own, adventure. And when I was, shopping for our home back in July of 2020, I got told no, like with no apology, no, go fix it. No, like, here, try this. It was like, no, 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 which is fine, because I expected the no's. But you were not a no. You were like, okay, this is where we're at. This is where we're stuck. This is what we need to do to fix it. And I'm willing to bet that that's a very large part too of why people like you so much, because most people say no, right? There's no, or let's go fix it. It's just no. So do you find that to be true, that people bring you difficult cases or more complex cases because of that?
They do. Yeah. I mean, certainly there are times where, it's 10 o'clock at night and we've got a really tough loan and I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't have taken this loan. Right. But really one of the things that sets us apart is that we if there is a way to get something done, we will figure it out and we will make it happen. My team always knows I don't even have a denial letter. Like I wouldn't even know how to ever formally deny somebody from a loan, because like you said, their verbiage is, it's not a no forever. It's a not right now because of XYZ. So one of the, main things that we focus on if we have an issue or something, we are not presenting a challenge without a solution. There is a solution to anything. Yes, sometimes it costs money, sometimes it takes time, those types of things. It might not be instant, but there is always a solution to any issue. And so I'm willing to put in the hard work if you are too, to get you to where you want to be. So for sure, that's definitely something we are obviously super focused on, is if there is someone that can be helped, we are helping them. $70,000 house, $700,000 house, doesn't matter. We treat them all the same.
I love that. So let me ask you another question, because obviously we all know, if you live in the United States and you don't live under a rock, you know that things are changing in the mortgage industry, right? Rates have doubled. And what I have, again, just watched you do with an immense amount of grace is just keep moving. Obviously the business has slowed down a little bit because naturally that happens, but not so much to the point where, it's catastrophic for you or for the business. Why do you think that is?
So, I think the biggest thing that I have always focused on, I not having a long time in this business, I don't really have anything to compare it to. So I wasn't in the business in 2008. So like, I just am not feeding into some of that hysteria that, the media and other people in the industry. Also, I'm not into excuses. You know me, like I don't need to dissect something 50 different ways to figure it out. Like it just is what it is. And that sometimes hurts me, right? Because I don't like to dig into the details of things. But at the end of the day, like market, like it's all the same. This is my job. And so I don't let those outside distractions in general try to affect that. I also, I tell everybody, and this is true across the board, like when I buy a house, when you bought your house, yes, of course, home buying has to be a financial decision. It does have to make sense, but buying a home is a lifestyle choice. It's not an interest rate choice. You don't buy a house because of a rate. You buy it because of how it's making you feel, right? So you're making more money and you want that upgraded house to feel, the fruits of your hard work, or you're growing your family and you need more bedrooms, or you're, downsizing, or, you can't do stairs anymore. So now we need to move to a ranch. Like those are all lifestyle choices that are going to make your life and your family's life work easier. And so that you can't put a price tag on that peace of mind and how your home makes you feel.
Right.
And so in general, like I really just tried to keep everybody focused on, getting to the goal versus focusing on something that none of us can control. Like I can't control interest rates, you can't either. But at the end of the day, you also deserve to be in something that works for you and your family. So if we can make sense out of it, and usually we can.
Right. So good. I love that. And there are some of you listening or watching or reading this right now, depending on where you're consuming this, that you're like making an excuse about your industry and you're going, but my industry is different, but my industry is different, but my industry is different. But like dissect what Katie just said about whatever product or service it is you're selling. And she's right? Like it is pretty infrequent that 100% of our buying decision is based on finances and logic. Right. There's, of course, Kate, like Kate said, it has to make sense, right? Like you can't pay your mortgage, you can't pay your mortgage, right? But most of the time when people are making buying decisions, it's not for that. So I could spend all day there. My sales coach brain just flipped on, but we're going to stay the course here. So you have gone from like, the title industry to now leading a team of 7, from a leadership perspective, what has been different about leadership than you anticipated it would be?
Oh boy. So that's loaded. Thanks for that question, Ryan. So Ryan knows that this is the area that I've had the most growing pains, if you will, and really, I think the biggest challenge for me is trying to delegate. I am a doer. I am also one that generally doesn't feel comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. And so as I am leading this team, a lot of times I may hold something back and just do it myself because I don't want to bug a team member, on the weekend or something like that. There's lots of examples, but I would say, one of the hardest things has been to delegate and actually just trust in what we built with our process and our systems and know that I cannot physically touch everything that comes in, or I'm just going to work myself to death. So that's been the biggest challenge, is just trying to delegate and then actually really sticking to my guns. I am notorious for bringing people in, paying them high salaries, because mortgage is a stressful industry. You get paid a lot of money, but it's a lot of work. And I'll end up doing half the job because it's just easier than trying to train someone to do something the way you want them to. I don't like that confrontation, those types of things. And so I think Ryan, you and I have had a few conversations about that in the last few months. I'm just done doing that because it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So I would say over the last 90 days, that's been my biggest focus, is just delegating and then really sticking to it. And, also trying to be comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations. I mean, a lot of times I create this in my head that someone's going to be upset if I critique something that I would like them to do better. But in all honesty, like, they're fine with it. They want to make me happy. They want to know how I want something. And so that was just something I was telling myself, like, oh, I'm going to piss them off because, they're going to get mad that I'm critiquing an email. But it's like, at the end of the day, if you're sending an email on my behalf, then it should say what I want it to say, and they're totally cool with it. So, don't be afraid to run your business the way, don't let it run you. You've got to, jump all in and control that. So.
Yeah. And I asked you that question intentionally because I did know what Katie's answer would be, but there's so many people in your shoes. And that's why I wanted to tell it, because there's so many of us who get to that point where we're ready to hire, we bring in a team, and either we wind up doing the work ourselves, we shy away from tough conversations, we take on an extraordinary amount of responsibility for other people's performance. And yes, as leaders, it's always our job, but in Katie's instance, and I've done it as well, and I have several other clients and women in our community who do the same thing, right? We take an extraordinary amount of responsibility for something that we've paid somebody else to do. And I see it over and over again. So while that was a little bit of a leading question, I think everybody needed to hear it because we all have this as doers, as leaders, as high performers. The reason we're high performers is because we're good at what we do. Unless you intentionally seek out leadership training or leadership coaching or leadership resources, or get on the leadership track in your MBA or whatever it is, that's not something that's often taught. For you've had to learn it on the fly. And I think we all need to give ourselves a little bit of a grace, you included, in learning to do that. So
100%. Somebody told me once, and it's kind of stuck with me, the highest income skill you can have is sales, right? It's the income level is infinite. You can basically, the sky's the limit, right? That's the highest income skill you can have is to learn to sell. The toughest skill of that job is delegating. It's so hard for leaders and drivers like you and I that in our mind, we see it unfolding exactly how we want it. And it's so hard sometimes to push that out in a way that, that people have that clear vision. So doing a lot of work around that for sure.
Amen. And we all do. And I mean, that's literally part of the reason why Be in the Room exists, right? It's part of why we talk about, have the conversations that we have, is because, again, most of us didn't set out to become leaders of companies. We've wound up as leaders of companies because of some other skill we happen to have, and we have to learn the leadership skill. So Well, Katie, my friend, again, I never heard you told your story from top to bottom like that. I'm just so excited about it. If people just want to follow along the journey of you just kicking ass and taking names in your career, where can they spend more time with you?
Yeah, so my website, my Instagram, my Facebook, they're all the same. It's Katie NKC, so KATIEINKC. And then my website's katieinkc.com. So yeah, feel free to follow along. And I started to do reels. So have you seen these? Oh, okay. You gotta check them out. So, and I actually did a reel about doing reels, and I'm gonna drop that in a couple of days, and I'm like dying because I'm like kind of pushing back on my team a little bit. Like, okay, if you're gonna make me do reels, I'm gonna throw you under the bus with me here. So, but yeah, so we are fully in social media, doing everything we can, on that front too. So feel free to give us a follow. And, obviously, of course, if anyone has any mortgage questions, financing, thinking about upgrading, transitioning down, whatever those questions are, we're happy to help anytime.
And if you are an entrepreneur who's considering buying and unsure, even if you're not local to Kansas City, Katie's a great resource for that. I know you've been a resource to a lot of women and that we've met through, masterminds and different things like that. So don't feel like, oh, I'm outside of Kansas City. Like, she's still a great resource for that.
I can review tax returns in my sleep. So self-employed, I'm your girl.
Amen. Awesome. Thank you, friends, so much. Thank you all for being here.
For having me. Okay. Bye-bye.